Curious? Take a look at this time lapse. Why does a healthy plant suddenly wither and die? What dictates the shift between vibrant growth and rapid decay? Whenever we observe a change in the physical world, there is always a specific trigger. Every occurrence in nature is driven by a distinct relationship between a cause and an effect. To identify those triggers, we rely on scientific study. This is an organized, empirical process of investigation designed to map out these specific links. Central to this process is the identification of variables. A variable is any causative factor, a characteristic or condition that possesses a relationship with a physical event. Without a systematic way to measure these variables, our observations are just guesses. The scientific method provides the framework required to explain the mechanics of our physical reality. Identifying a relationship is one thing, but proving it conclusively requires a highly controlled physical stress test, the scientific experiment. In this textbook example, we use a rubber band catapult to test how far a projectile flies. Here, the researcher deliberately changes how far they stretch the band. Because this specific extension is the factor being manipulated, it is known as the independent variable. This diagram shows the direct response. The distance the paper bullet travels changes based on the stretching of the band. This result, the effect, is called the dependent variable. To keep the test accurate, other factors must be kept identical, such as the thickness of the band or the size of the bullet. These are the controlled variables, maintained so they do not contaminate the data. For an experiment to be valid, it must be restricted to only one independent variable and one dependent variable. If you try to change the stretch distance and the bullet weight at the exact same time, the experiment fails. You lose the ability to isolate which specific cause was responsible for the change in distance. Isolating these variables strips away environmental noise, revealing the underlying facts of the experiment. Once the data is collected, scientists meticulously map the relationship between these variables to identify clear, undeniable trends. This follows a specific rule. The independent variable is always plotted on the horizontal x-axis, while the dependent variable is plotted on the vertical y-axis. To ensure these measurements are useful worldwide, scientists use a global standard, the International System of Units, or SI. This table highlights the fundamental units. These are the independent building blocks of measurement, like the meter for length, the kilogram for mass, and the second for time. By multiplying or dividing these blocks, we create derived units. For example, dividing a meter by a second creates the unit for velocity, meters per second. These units act as a universal alphabet. They ensure that an experiment performed in one lab produces results that can be accurately communicated and reproduced anywhere else in the world. To verify that a scientific equation is logically sound, researchers use a mathematical check called unit analysis. The core principle is balance. Both sides of any valid equation must eventually break down into the same fundamental units. Consider the equation for distance, s equals v times t. By breaking this down into units, the seconds cancel each other out, leaving meters on both sides. The equation is balanced and valid. Unit analysis ensures our mathematical models align with the physical world. If the units do not match, the underlying theory is flawed. Overlooking these rules leads to critical errors. Failing to account for controlled variables, for instance, can instantly invalidate the findings of an entire study. There is also a mathematical limit. You cannot add or subtract quantities that have different fundamental units. You can't subtract seconds from kilograms. These strict protocols are necessary for maintaining the integrity of research. They serve as the primary safeguard against data contamination and unreliable conclusions. The scientific method is a rigorous framework for a reason. It is our primary tool for translating the chaos of nature into a coherent, evidence-based understanding of the physical world. Look for the variables behind the phenomena you see every day, and subscribe to The Explainer to keep investigating the mechanics of reality.